Welcome to Faculty of Management Studies, Parul University. We're really grateful for this webinar series of sessions. Our Faculty of Management students are getting opportunity to learning in this digital platform by listening various experts in the different fields. Today is our webinar that is organized in area of managing change in pandemic and post-pandemic days. And I would like to introduce today's expert for this session, Mr. Deepak Bhattacharya. Mr. Deepak Bhattacharya, who is a professor in area of organizational behavior and human resource management from Xavier Institute of Management, Kolkata, India. I would like to give a very brief introduction about Sir. Sir completed PhD in management from University of Kolkata. He has served in industry in training and organizational development function for more than 15 years. Thereafter, Sir worked for the 2.5 decades. He has worked with several management institutes in India with various capacities like director, dean, head of the department, professor. Presently, he is working as a professor of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar, India. He is also visiting faculty of XLRI, Jamshedpur and IIM Kozhikode. Professor Bhattacharya has extensive consultancy experience in area of HR, quality management, human resource planning, compensation, design, and organizational change and development, organization design and restructuring areas. Sir has published more than 30 books on HR management area with Sage, Oxford, Pearson, PHI, IGI Global, etc. Sir has contributed more than 100 papers in various journals of national and international journals. His primary area of research interest is human capital management and organization change and development. Really, it was a very wonderful experience to our students that you are going to listen from such a prominent personality in the area of HR. On behalf of Faculty of Management Studies, Dr. Tejas Javeri, really be grateful to Professor Deepak Bhattacharya for accepting our invitation for this session. And today's session coordinator, moderator, Dr. Sapna Chauhan, faculty member of Faculty of Management Studies. So after this session, Madam will make some question answer round. And whatever your queries, you can share by email or by WhatsApp to Dr. Sapna Chauhan. Thank you. Sir, I would like to hand over this platform to deliver a session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. Thank you for inviting me also. Now, this is a very critical area. In fact, I personally handle change issues in many organizations, and my book on managing organizational change and development by Oxford, it is taught abroad also, not only in India. So this is an area of expertise I thought that very appropriate, because in fact I have been talking about this particular crisis moment. What should be our approach in managing organizational change? When we talk about organizational change, we have a couple of models already available. So we call it mostly the prescriptive models. The definition of prescriptive model means those models which are theoretically developed based on certain researches. But those models, today's context, we find that can we really rather put those models into use? Okay, or can we rather need to think about designing some of our own models? We call them normative models. So the approach in today's particular crisis moment, organization has to come out with their own specific ways and means for managing change, both in this current pandemic situation as well as the immediate post-pandemic situation, because immediate post-pandemic situation also requires them to sustain, thinking about the restructuring plan, thinking about redesigning their product portfolio, etc., etc. Now the next slide, please show. Okay. Now, if we ask about what exactly the pandemic situation, we find that organization has to plan. You have to rather think what should be your strategies to sustain. Now, even though organizational change at the broad level, we rather divide into two types, transactional and transformational. In pandemic and post-pandemic days, we will find only the transformational change, because transactional change is rather more narrow in focus, giving only importance to a specific functional areas or maybe a particular process. But transformational is a stage, or rather change is that type of change which requires a holistic change for the organization. That's why we find in many organizations this change experiences, what they are rather, what type of change experience, what they are facing now, we find most of them rather thinking about this transformational change. I'll just give some example. Some of the products many organizations started manufacturing which has no relation, no relevance to their core competence. Imagine a helicopter manufacturing factory is now manufacturing this ventilator. Imagine an arms and ammunition factory is now going for what we call the PPEs, or even the hand gloves and all like that. Today you must have seen that many multinationals are in this one. And most of the companies, particularly those who are FMCG and all, they have started renewing their focus on areas where we find that maybe that they are more cautious about the quality of life, the health issues, healthcare products, herbal products, immunity boosters, etc., etc. Some of the multinationals or even the FMCGs, multinational FMCGs who are operating in India have altogether, started focusing on a different product line, product portfolio, more importance and thrust on the what we call the herbal range of products and all. So all this they are doing in this change situation is not exactly like a temporary one. Let me tell you, even after post-pandemic situation, you will find they will continue to exist. They will continue to manage this operation also, along with the what we call the core activities and all. Let me explain to you. Next slide. Let me explain to you one specific issue. Say, for example, some companies are partnering with the organization for the supply chain and logistics support. Because in a pandemic situation, organizations are suffering from the challenge of the cash flow. They don't have the adequate cash flow in their hand. To sustain them, they have started doing that. Okay, can I become a supply chain or a logistics support partner for some others? See, we know that couple of these food delivery, this one, what we call the food aggregators. Even some of the chains like companies like Domino's also acted like what we call the supply chain partner for the ITC. So also the others. So this is one way for what you call facing with your survival needs in situation of crisis. But this way you have to be very careful. Why organization need to be very careful, I will explain little later. Some also going for a contract manufacturing. Okay, they will start manufacturing on behalf of other. Become an outsourced partner for big houses. Now there are very good examples in the corporate world that this temporary, what we call shift from the core competencies to this, just to overcome the pending crisis and the future, may help them to get an increased cash flow. But there are also the difficulties for some of the organizations that in that process, they will dilute their brand identity. We have a great example in India. Many of you might have not heard about Tire Corporation of India. So it was having huge cash flow problem. Then they started doing this outsourced job of the leading private tire manufacturers. I don't want to name them. So all these leading private, what we call these tire manufacturers used their facilities, this Tire Corporation of India's world-class facilities, manufactured the tire, but they embossed their brand. That means Tire Corporation as a tire manufacturer gradually lost its identity. So much so, ultimately, when the situation was back to normal, when they wanted to again introduce their own product in the market, there was no taker. Reason is very simple, because they are not being recognized as a tire manufacturer at all, right? So this is what we call a typical way of brand dilution. I'll just tell you one thing, one example from the international, organizational perspective. So one organization, many of you heard its name, EMC. EMC is a chip maker. Today, EMC is, already it has been acquired by this Dell. You know that. Now, EMC had a typical problem at one point of time and how they overcome the crisis. Let us try to understand. Similar to Tire Corporation example. In case of Tire Corporation, they allowed the dilution of their own brand identity. In case of EMC, they didn't. How? EMC storage device, the competitor was that point of time was IBM. Now, price-wise, IBM is much higher than the EMC one. But quality-wise, EMC and IBM are comparable. Now, what happened? When this particular EMC storage device started giving problems all of a sudden, Mike Radgards, the chief then, took a very daring decision. Let us see. He said that in this particular critical juncture, we have to ensure that customer don't leave us. We have to captivate the customer. So in the process of captivating customer, what Mike Radgards did, he has started sourcing from IBM the spares that are needed for manufacturing the storage device. Ensured IBM traceability means that users or the customers today buy from EMC knowing that the components used here are IBM. Traceability means visibility. But he has billed the customer, his EMC's customer, the reduced rate, that is EMC's rate, even though paid higher to IBM. Now, this strategy, when he took for what you call sustaining in a temporary situation, he was criticized by his board members very legitimately. Why? Because in this process, he is basically, this Mike Radgards, adding to the loss of the company. So that being the situation, what happened? Then ultimately, Mike Radgards took the defense. Look, this is a time for me to captivate my customer. To give a signal to them, your company is not here only to make profit. Your company is here to give you the best services. Okay, so he could address this problem of this vendor quality issues, which has created a problem for the storage device. Within no time, less than 3 months' time, he could rather restore to the normalcy. In this case of EMC's transition, none of the customer left them because customer got a strong message. Here is a company who cares for the customer services, who don't bother whether they make profit or not. Now, in the pandemic situation, when companies are shifting their business focus, entering into different product portfolio, started doing the subcontracted or what we call the contract manufacturing for others, or even working as an outsourced partner for others. The challenge is not to lose the brand identity. If you are losing, then it will be very difficult for you to sustain. There are many examples in the corporate world who lost their identity. I have given you a very good example of Tire Corporation. I don't know how many of you heard about Hindustan Paper. Hindustan Paper is a very well-known company, quality paper manufacturer. I have seen many private paper manufacturers used to source from them and then supply. Okay. Today they are literally rather what you call destroyed, but the other private players are rather what you call emerged. This company also unknowingly indulged in diluting their own brand identity, and gradually people have forgotten this one, right? But this has not happened in case of what we call this EMC, okay? I hope you have understood the EMC example and the other one, right? Okay. Now, in a pandemic situation, we have to rather think. I said that theoretical change management models may not work here, or a prescriptive model may not work here. You have to think of designing your own model, which we call more a normative model, because you have to understand your organizational dynamics. Think in this perspective, okay, look, if it is like that, how we are going to sustain? Okay, what should be our temporary approach? Many companies are trying to sustain temporarily by what you call doing some odd jobs and all. But this propensity to ensure cash flow to sustain for the present should be managed very carefully. Next slide, Jit. Okay, what are the immediate challenges? Let us understand from the organizational point of view. The COVID-19 situation immediately after the normalcy is restored, we find that organization has to craft their own strategies. What are the major issues? Now, major issue is that you have the time constraint. You have to work at a very high speed. There is a very interesting statement given by Jeff Bezos of Amazon. He said to his people at one point of time, look, at times we find cost of a wrong decision is relatively less than the cost of a delayed right decision. So in the process of taking a right decision, we often try to be 100% rational in our decision-making style, and as a result, we delay the decision. His statement to his people that in the process of getting your decision right, if you delay the decision, your expenses or the expenses for the organization will be higher than if you commit a mistake right now and learn from the mistake. He used the term the velocity of decision making. Means you have to be very fast in taking your decision. Time is rather what we call the major constraint in this pandemic situation to think about your own action plan, own strategies, etc. If you delay your decision, then you will literally rather get ruined. So you cannot afford to. See, normally we find Indian organizations are by nature more structuralist. In fact, there are two styles that we find in the corporate world. One style we call them structuralist, another style we call them reconstructionist. Those who are reconstructionist, particularly technology company and all, they are very fast in responding to the change situation. But those who are structuralist, they always rather try to take decision with much precaution, guarding against possible what you call the problems in the wrong decision-making process, etc. If a manager or if an organization is structuralist in nature, they will not respond to a crisis situation immediately. They will wait and observe. And in this process, what we find in most of the Indian organizations being structuralist, the crisis situation dragged them to reduce their headcounts ruthlessly. They have to go for redundancy. They have to stop their operation. But had they been a reconstructionist in approach, they would have thought of some alternative courses of action. Now, this is what a major constraint. Time issues is a major challenge in the pandemic, as well as it will remain a challenge in the post-pandemic situation. So whatever we do, we have to do it very fast. Now, the decision-making process, we know that in organization, decision-making process is rather a participative, distributed. But in this pandemic situation, maybe you have to go for a centralized decision-making. At certain point of time, you have to think of enforcing change because participative decision-making process may delay your action plan. Balanced power, coercive, and rational empirical approach. I'll explain to you the strategies of change management. Number one strategy of change management we call normative re-educative. Number two is rational empirical. Number three is incremental. And number four strategy we call it garbage can. Can is a container. Garbage can means where garbage can be put. Now, if you are a rational, normative re-educative strategist, in that case, what happens? You try to be a rational decision maker. You try to ensure that people understand the change need so that they can take an informed decision about the change. But a normative re-educative strategy, as the name goes, you can understand, it is not only time consuming, you need to also spend a lot of resources. So that being the situation, today we find organization has to go for what we call a power coercive and a rational empirical strategy. power coercive approach we use when we usually feel that, okay, I have to make people to work immediately. I will not give them any chance to think twice. So it rather applies the force to the people to comply with the change requirement. And rational empirical approach of strategy in change situation are those when you feel that you hardly have what you call the resource availability. Within the constraint of your resources, you take your decisions, change decisions or frame your strategies. So we say that on the one hand, you have the constraint of time and resource. On the other hand, you want to move, allow the organization to move. So hence we try to focus on balancing both power coercive and rational empirical approach. Okay, so rather than going for what we call rather a garbage can means it's typical strategy which we use mostly out of our gut feelings and out of our what we call intuition. So this we cannot afford to do. We have to think about a power coercive approach and rational empirical. A note of warning, power coercive approach may not yield any results in some situations. You have to think of how you can balance it. Most of the cases where power coercive approach or strategies were used, we found that change utterly failed in the organization. What we can do, balance approach of power coercive and rational empirical so that we can persuade the people, make them understand change is required, go ahead with the change, rather than giving them an opportunity to take an informed decision on the change using normative re-educative approach. So this is very important. We have to understand, we have to make a balance between these two. Balance, that is power coercive and rational empirical. Once again, I am telling 4 strategies for change are there: normative re-educative, rational empirical, power coercive, and garbage can. Similarly, 4th style of decisions also we can say that is rational, bounded rational, incremental, and garbage can. Right? Okay. So this way, the decision making and the strategy framing of the change are more or less aligned. So you can understand that in a crisis situation, we have to make a balance between these two. Next slide. Next slide. So okay. Now, the other crisis that we will face in this change situation, poor cash flow, because there is no sales, no taker, no production, nothing you can do. People have left the workplace or they have been asked to leave. So people are, either in their hometown, they are not prepared to come back immediately. Now, of course, when this lockdown is over, industry people are crying for, they are what you call workers whom they have allowed to go, whom they have rather not given their dues also in those crisis situations. So poor cash flow, how you are going for managing this one? Okay, many organizations have started internal cash generation, particularly IT and the ITES segment. We find they have started internal cash generation. Why? They are allowing large number of their employees to work from home, and in this process we find various overhead costs they are saving. For example, reduced office space, salvaging of idle inventories, saving on electricity, transport, canteen, etc., etc. I find most of the IT companies have literally given mandate that go for setting up your office at home, take some rupees. Some of the companies I know even paid to the office setup cost to the people, to their employees, ask them to continue the work, because today's technology will allow also to work from home. In many cases, in some cases it may not. Okay, there may be a problem. So you have to think in this poor cash flow, how you are trying to manage. Okay, one option already we have explained to you, that start doing the outsourced job for others, or start what we call becoming a supply chain partner for others. Okay, or do some other production like your these immunity boosters or the healthcare products, etc. But the other way is to look for within. So we emphasize in a change situation, think about generating cash through internal cost savings. Think of how you can do that. Sustaining the brand identity is a great challenge. Already I have given you the example. So in the process of generating your cash flow, if you allow your what you call brand identity getting diluted, like what happened in case of two Indian companies, I have said, many of you never heard about Tire Corporation, but they were at one point of time was a top class tire manufacturers in the country. So also Hindustan Paper. Hindustan Paper I know particularly because I was involved in, in a lot of what you call their change issues, more as a consultant, as a trainer like that. We used to use a slogan like that. Even if a kid chew a paper, now we find in a kid during his initial learning days, start eating paper. So the Hindustan paper was made in such a way, even if they chew, that will not rather have any adverse effect on their health. Okay, so that is a different way. So it can also give indulgence to kids to chew the paper so that they don't rather get any stomach upset or any health issues like that. Anyway, today they have diluted their brand, but we have seen how similar crisis, even much more grievous crisis, has been successfully managed by an international company known as EMC, which is a chip maker. And EMC has now been acquired by Dell. EMC's rival company was IBM. When there was a quality problem in the storage device, customers started discarding that. Then EMC started sourcing spares from their competitor. IBM is their competitor. Ensured that EMC's buyers buy their storage device knowing that it is made out of IBM, means ensured IBM traceability. Billed customer the EMC price while paid higher price to IBM because IBM price is higher. So in this way, these Mike Rutgers took such a strategy which ultimately rather affected the resources of the company. So you can understand this problem he could rather settle despite having opposition from the board and all. Now many organizations in this pandemic situation went for pay cut. But again, while going for a pay cut, we find there is a selective approach in pay cut. It's not for those who are working in a critical job position, which is absolutely bad. This is a time, this is an era, or this is a period when you have to show the equitability. Incidentally, in India, the difference between the CEO's wage and the least paid individual in an organization, that pay gap is highest in the world. A poor country like us, highest in the world. There are a number of issues. Okay, so several thousand times more, which even the abroad, the companies abroad, they start wondering how this type of inequity can be allowed in a country like India. Okay, because Indian companies are by default we find are closely held, means the major stake lies with the owner and very less stake is only with the public or to the general people. And maybe that 70% are with the owner, 30% are rather as a shares it is available, it is rather traded, we find. Okay. So this being the situation, we find that a closely held company will automatically try to enforce pay cut only for those who are at down the line. And that exactly has happened. Rather than going for an equitable pay cut, suggestion here that in this crisis moment, you have to captivate your people also. Today, why FMCG company is crying for people? Many companies, we know that they have lost their people because they are not willing to come back. During that crisis situation, their company has literally rather what we call thrown them out from the job, stopped their wage payment, not even given the support and all. And FMCG is having tremendous order flow now because today we survive. So many, even the retail also we find, e-commerce also we find. So these are the problems what we find in organization. So if pay cut is inevitable, we know, but when you go for a pay cut, ensure that pay cut is uniformly made applicable for all cross-section of people, not just for people who are down the line. In fact, to be very honest, good organization should have more pay cut for the higher people while less pay cut for the lower people. Because higher people we find are disproportionately higher level people paid more. The pay inequity is very high in India rather than pay equity. Next slide. Okay. Now, what should be your organic or a normative model? We said it is an organic model because this model of change, both in pandemic and post-pandemic days, these are evolved within the organization. You have to evolve it on your own rather than literally following any established change management model, which we call prescriptive model. For example, you cannot make your Lewis change management model validate here in this current situation. You cannot go for validating Porter's change management model in this crisis situation, even though this is a wonderful model. So also you cannot also go for what we call rather a McKinsey 7S model for change in this situation. You have to think of developing on your own something. In fact, this organic or a normative approach of organizational change is a more agile approach, which nowadays McKinsey has started looking into agile change management approach. And those of you who heard about behavioral economics, there is a term known used today is nudging. So positive way of nudging means that you manage the change by a positive nudge to the people. Getting my point? Okay. So this approach also you can say more or less similar to that, but this is based on primarily my experience in managing change in the organization. We say that in this crisis situation, you have to go for a normative approach or an organic approach, which is specific for your organization. Now, what does it mean? Does it mean this model will be applicable for all? Answer is no. Because every organization has to think about their own model within certain available literature and all. Some of these steps may not be relevant for some organization. You may require some additional thrust in some areas, but by and large we find that this is the way how an organization can sustain. Number one step, we say the ice breaking. So you have very less time availability. We said right in the beginning, time constraint is a major constraint. Can you reach to the people the change news? Can you reach the change news to the people at a very faster pace? Okay. In today's technology, we can say, for example, I am sitting in Bhubaneswar, you are in Baroda, you are in far off place from them, but we are interacting each other because of the technology. Is there any way, can there be a single message? Okay. Use both formal and informal communication, but ensure that only one message you are giving, not that different messages in this crisis situation. Most of the organization fail in change because different levels, different managerial people start giving different messages. So you have to first decide what do you want to communicate to people and ensure that you are reaching to people both informally and formally by whatever way possible, whatever, even we say that even if required, communicate through what we call this SMS, communicate through WhatsApp, communicate through what we call any video if possible, but some workmen may not have. But at least workmen can read your SMS, can read the instructions if you can give. Help people to relate using appreciative inquiry. As we know, appreciative inquiry is used when we find that we are getting some positive results, we start repeating that same effort to get the positive results again and again. So more rather focusing on a strength-based approach. This is very critical here. In a crisis situation like that, if we say the negativities of this, unless you rather, if you want to sensitize people telling them, look, we are going to die, then it is not a strength-based approach. The strength-based approach requires you to rather give a message that, look, your organization will be able to face these challenges. So, for example, an army commander, if they say that go and die and fight with your enemy, it will not rather motivate them. A strength-based approach of change requires you to focus on the positive aspects. that whatever endeavor or the efforts you are putting, it will help the organization to achieve or to reach its goal. So that is very important. So help people to relate, help them. Tell them that, look, with your power, you can really rather do justice to this change. With your capability, with your competence, with your skill sets, knowledge, you can fight against that. Now, organization at this stage commit mistakes, sensitizing people with a negative consequence. Right now, I have given you the army commanders examples, right? So in that case, the negative is what, if you don't want to change, then this will be the consequence. We'll lose the job, we'll have this type of problem, we'll have these consequences, like that. So a strength-based approach will help, you have to take, so that help the people to relate with the change. Tell them, give them this confidence that, look, if you try, then you can achieve the results. Then comes make people informed, okay, through empowerment. Okay, give them the opportunity. I know many organizations globally also, they used this approach and all. Theoretically, we know empowerment. Empowerment, we say that we build the capability of the people so that they can take what we call decisions independently. In fact, empowerment is a process of creating a level playing field for people down the line so that they can take decisions independently. But that's not all. Okay, I will give you the example of one world-class organization, Cisco. Cisco is a company which goes systematically to declare redundancy plan. Every year they make people redundant. But it is a company which also spends highest amount in the world in terms of human capital development. Maximum man days of training for their employees they give. With successive redundancy plan, they introduce council style of management, which is nothing but an example of putting empowerment into action. What is council style of management? Cisco, when they make people redundant in the organization, because they are a very fast changing technology company. Any technology company has to change very fast because their product life cycle is considerably short. In a short product life cycle, if you want to sustain, you have to go for change every now and then. Cisco is such type of company. So when they go for change every year, they find that people becoming redundant. But at the same time, they recruit also, massive recruitment. Over the years, we find Cisco's overall manpower or the headcounts have increased rather than decreased. But many other companies, we find that their revenue gone up, but the headcounts got reduced. But in Cisco case, it is reversed. It's an excellent example of utilizing empowerment, council style of management. What does it mean? Now with reduced workforce, you have to manage your huge job. So what Cisco does, they declare how many layers or levels of management they can make redundant. Reduce the levels, make the job very simple, and empower the people to take their own decision. Leave it to them. Means the workers down the line are told that you on your own, do your work, okay, take your own decisions. So they build capability of the people. That is why they invest heavily on what we call the workers training. In fact, it is highest. Average man days of trainings per year for Cisco's people are higher than any other organization. So this thing can be done. You can make people informed through empowerment. Empowerment means creating a level playing field. Empowerment is not that, okay, I'm telling my junior, look, you take your own decision. But first I have to create a level playing field for him or her. I have to give them the requisite training, the support and all, so that they can understand it, right? Okay. So this is how we can go ahead. Now there are other two steps. Now, next slide. In fact, three more steps are there. Follow the principle of mutuality. We use the concept of mutuality means, okay, both of us will rather try to create an environment like that. Look, this change is concerning both of us. It's not only a change for your interest, it is also for the interest of the what we call organization. Draw a Venn diagram, show how both employer and employee issues are converging. So when you join these two, what we call the circles, so you have to rather see the overlapping areas of the circles are more, means the employees and the employers' issues are one and the same. If this can be done, you will rather be able to get more commitment from people, even if you are in a very crisis situation. Let people be a party to change. Means you have to rather tell them. You have to ask for their suggestions. If required, you have to go for alteration of your change plan, even in this crisis situation. Making people aware about that will help. And finally, the most important part of it, that you have to think about what we call incremental plan. What is an incremental plan? So in this crisis situation, it is very important for you to showcase the positive outcome of change to people, so that this positive outcome that you are showcasing to the people give them the feeling that something positive is happening. So in that case, we take an incremental one. Incremental means short term. Incremental means this is not the time for a long-term plan. Incremental means achieving some results in the short term, showcasing it to the people so that they feel interested, they feel more motivated, they feel excited, and then integrate this incremental achievement for the long-term one. Are you with me? Rather than planning, okay, somebody said, WHO said COVID will stay for